And,
Recording has started.
Looks like developments occurring this week. However, the show must go on. So I would now like to call on Councillor Slade. I'd like to call on Councillor Slade to please lead us in our opening prayer. Thank you.
Loving God, as we start our meeting tomorrow show our council, we ask you to kindly amend the read. Today we're meeting to look at ways in which we can serve the people of this. As usual, we need your help to understand how best to meet the needs of the various people who attend the board and assistance. When we make decisions, remind us to take seriously the concerns of those who have elected us to serve them in this community. In our minds, so that we can find the best answers to the questions they're asking, always ensuring that our decisions are made to serve the community. If we disagree with one another during this meeting, help us to remember that we must look for solutions that will meet the needs of the wonderful people we're pleased to name residents of tomorrow's show. As debates, help us to be more interested in the truth and in victory. Give us open minds so that we can support as many people as possible through our action. Thank you for the privilege that you've given us by calling us to be leaders, but also being servants of those we call tomorrow's Shire their home. If today we can help those in our community who are struggling, give us the wisdom to make the best possible decisions. We make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Have a full day. We understand our work to moment.
That was a little bit loose.
So
Was that recording? Yes, recording.
So therefore,
Can you go outside and just check that you can hear it on your phone? Yep.
Yes, thank you for the there. That is noted. Councillors, motion please receiving the minutes of the May meeting of tomorrow's Shire Council. Councillor Smith has moved that way. Second, Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. Further discussion? Not, so I'll put that. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. There, that carried. Thank you. Any matters arising? No. Thank you. Let's move on, councillors. So we do not have any mayoral minutes, and we do not have committee reports. Therefore, let's now proceed to let's now go to do we have delegates' reports? Other than Sabrina J.O. performance review. Talk about that.
Yeah. So earlier did report. J.O. had a performance review of their CEO, Bill Briggs, which hadn't happened for had been on 2 years. So. But everyone was very happy with the way she was running things. I think the only complaint one person had was she talked too much. The Italian from down here, so But she's very much on top of her position and does an extremely good job. Very lucky to have her, I think.
That's true. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The only addition to councils that I'd have in relation to that is, I may have mentioned it to some of you, is in relation to the Secretariat that is proposed for the, you may be aware of the New South Wales Joint Organisation Chairman's Forum and also the CEO's Forum. Now, the Chairman's Forum meets once a quarter and the executive CEOs meet, well, they're currently meeting fortnightly. And it is proposed by Ramjo, Riverina and Murray that they have a secretariat for the Chairman's Forum and the EO's Forum. So anyway, they wanted to make a decision at the last meeting and I indicated that we, as a chairman, can't make decisions, budgetary decisions. So anyway, the EOs have gone away together to bring back to the Chairman's Forum next week. We'll meet next week in the afternoon. In the morning, and I understand from talking with our CEO that there's been various budgets mentioned from 6,000 per JO to 5,000 each, so 13 JOs. Now they're talking about $3,000 that each JO would pay. So I suppose, councillors, I wanted to get an indication from you, if you felt comfortable to do so, the general principle of paying our JO, paying for a secretariat for a Chairman's Forum and an EO's Forum that are representatives, obviously, of their JOs and the JOs that are representative of their member councils. I think you know my view as far as it could be argued that this is an attempted empire building by some. The issue, councillors, that I have is that all of us are saying that to the Minister on a regular basis, the JOs aren't financially sustainable, we haven't got the money. Here we are saying, let's find some money to run a secretariat for these basically informal organisations that can't make decisions anyway. And I just need to share the views of our members next week, that's all. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just fail to understand the thinking of these people. I really do, because all of this was all part of Fit for the Future, designed to save money around local government issues, and it's done nothing but cost local government all the way through, and it's just ongoing. I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, that's a fair point. That is quite right. JOs were supposed to be, to save us all money, and
Their argument.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, Councillor Judd.
I know it's happened before in different organisations before, but I thought about, getting one of the, general managers or something, or one of the member councils to, take the minutes or whatever, on a rotation basis or something, that, even if you've got to recompense them a small amount, but it'd still be a lot cheaper than the pay a secretariat, I think.
That's true. Councillor Judd, that was mentioned. See, what happened was that we alternated for these Chairman's Forum, remember, once a quarter. They're just supposed to be about information sharing. And some seem to want them to be all-powerful police and make decisions without consulting with their own boards, let alone their own member councils. Anyway, so what originally happened is that we swapped the chairmanship based on the chairman's surname. So you'd go in order, and I chaired the one in May last year, and then we had a few of the chairman thought we should have a permanent chairman elected and a deputy for 12 months, and that their CEO would provide the secretariat services, which we thought, oh, okay. And now I can't say this, I won't say it in open council, but I understand that there is a former CEO of the JO that's looking for employment. So there will be a report coming back next week, but feedback that we've got thus far from councils around our footprint is certainly one that would suggest that they think that this is not an appropriate spend of money. And we just wouldn't have thought that it's a big job. This is where I fail to see where their time would be spent. This is an informal organisation that it's not like it's a council or this is chairman and EAs getting together, reflecting on the goals, the frustrations, the achievements, the frustrations. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Just on that, that's all it should be, and it's up to those representatives that are there, those chairmen that are there, to take notes. Notes that if something comes up that think that might something that's useful to our JO or whatever, it's up to them to take notes on it. I can't see. Yeah, it's the simple way out of it.
Well, it's worked well, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to date as far as the chairman, the mayor of Yass Valley, Rowena Abbey, and her EO. However, she's no longer in the role. That's worked very well as far as, just sending out the notes 4 times a year. And so, I don't know why it has to be complicated. Anyway, I'm getting a feeling, councillors, that you're not convinced that this would be a wise spend of the Riverina JO's money if it come down to it. Councillor Slade.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that it all comes back to what Councillor Oliver said a few moments ago. A cost-saving exercise has suddenly become a cost-increasing exercise. If the people who are the mayors of the members of the JO all feel the same way, then I think maybe it's a case of standing up a little bit more strongly and saying to the relevant or irrelevant minister, look, that's far and no further. We're not going to go anymore down this track. I think there's a fair amount of, you can feel angst around this room, and we're pretty friendly on it. But I can imagine that somebody sitting somewhere in an office, probably in Sydney, thinking, oh, well, I guess I've got another fiefdom now beneath me, so I'll become even more important than I used to be in the past. My urge would be, bearing in mind what Councillor Oliver said, using that as the basis, I think that the mayors should take a formal stand and say, no, we're not going to do it. I find it bad enough that we've got this proposal later on that we've got to continue to pay for 2 years. If we endorse something that we think is a good idea, then there's a financial penalty on us, 2 years. That to me really stinks. If we don't take a stand now, then I think next meeting will come along and they'll say they've decided that the executive should wear gold robes. No, I think we've gone far enough. I'm asking you as the mayor, the other mayors, stand up for us and say, people of our shires aren't interested. Thanks.
Thank you very much. No other comments?
Happily all agree.
Yeah. Well, as long as I can take that back, and I'm grateful to you for it, for your thoughts. So no further delegates reports. Councillor Winky.
The Rage conference was held over the last 2 weeks of the Monday morning, last Monday and a fortnight prior, over the net. So it was less travelling involved, less expense involved. The first meeting was basically honed in on safety of roads. The second meeting was more to do with actual roads themselves. So
it's worthwhile.
Quite interesting. I enjoyed the second. I think the first one was the difficulties of it would be that some of those safety things are great and they'd probably fund those for a start, but then we'd be up for continuing the funding after, with a lot more line marking and this sort of thing. So it added an extra lot cost to us if we were to go down that track. I think there'd be other ways of looking at safety by straightening our corners a bit more and would achieve a lot more than what we would with putting too many more white lines in and rails and stuff around the roads. So that's what I'd like to see in my vote and spend money on some of the things I was suggesting.
What was the roll-up like, Councillor Winky?
Sorry?
The roll-up, what was it like? Are you aware? Or?
I don't know. I don't show up on mine as to how many participants were involved. You see, nothing showed up. Usually it does, some, but I'm not a program well.
You'd think it'll be well supported.
There seemed to be a lot of questions coming in, and I didn't know where you were able to put questions in. It wasn't very clear how to do that. We had a few technical issues the first day around, but the second day went off quite smoothly. Unless as a facilitator would have been probably better. But I won't go there.
Thanks, Councillor Winky. Councillor Judd.
I see Councillor Winky is present. Yeah, I was participated as well. And normally in Sydney, there's probably 80 to 100 there, so I imagine it's probably a similar number that would have been online. One of the other things that discussed on Monday was the point of the independent panel to be an advisory on the transfer of our regional road network, the 15,000 Ks. And so that panel's going to report by this time next year. So, and might even ask our manager what he thinks of the process at the moment, whether it can be worthwhile for our council or not. So,
I think just on that, Councillor Judd, before I defer to the engineering technical manager, I know the REROC board advocated that to the government, or Minister Toole particularly, about having local government representation on the board, on the panel, reviewing that, because we'll be found that
there's one.
Well,
the general manager of Queanbeyan Parliament, Peter Pickett's on it.
yes, but the States Association wasn't consulted in that appointment, which we thought was a bit puzzling.
yeah. Anyway, Nick Beach, the shadow minister, was also on the panel to talk the other day, and he gave the warning. What could happen is that if this transfer goes ahead, the finance that the government may cut back on our block grants we're getting for regional roads, and it's sort of, so we could be, take out one hand, give it the other, so.
Yeah.
One advantage of the transfer is that it gets regional roads off our books as far as depreciation goes, but
what cost?
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Does the engineering technical manager have any comments?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Only that it's still quite unclear as to whether there's a benefit to council or not. The longer the process goes on, the more I think we probably should just have the status quo remain. But I guess the risk is you retain ownership of the regional roads and then the funding still changes potentially. That could be a risk, I guess. But I think there's another webinar coming up, of which myself and the accountants will attend, just to see if we can quantify the impact to council, both positive and negative, and report back. But
there will be an opportunity, I understand, for submissions from council.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But yes, again, the submissions are to the panel, who then make recommendation to the minister. They've got a pretty narrow scope, I would say. I know how much they'll be able to recommend. But anyway, we'll see what happens. It's interesting, but the more I think about it, the more I think we are better off exactly as we are now. We'll see what happens.
Thank you. It was a bit unclear with those webinars coming up, whether they're talking to councils or talking to the JO. I might be wrong. So.
I think there's a bit of a directive from the government to tell all their ministers and departments and bureaucrats to keep talking up JOs. Not that they're going to give us any more money, but anyway, we won't dig up that hole again. So no further delegates' reports. Thanks, Councillor David, Councillor Winky and the manager. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just yesterday I attended very quickly a meeting with council staff in regards to energy savings. It's in its preliminary stages at this point in time, but there are potential there for huge savings which can be used to make even more savings. So very exciting, I think, Mr Mayor. It's something to really look forward to and consider carefully, I think, yes.
No, that's good. Thank you. Wherever we can save.
Well, there's substantial savings, I can tell you that, just based on projections.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Councillor Oliver. I'm sure you'll keep us informed as progress unfolds. Thank you. Now, let's proceed, councillors, to page 6, the business paper, the Mayor's report for the month of May. And there is a recommendation, page 8, that report be noted, please. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Deputy Mayor moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Motion receiving staff reports, please. Thank you, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 10, General Manager's report, 10.1, calendar of events. Extensive list of these.
Yes, it's a busy calendar, isn't it? For council's consideration of adoption.
Thank you. Works Manager, we bid you well. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah. It's fine.
Good, thank you. Someone prepared to move that we note the calendar of events. Thank you, Councillor McLaren, Councillor Slade moved. And seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 11, 10.2, seals. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The seals are as read with the addition of another one, the deed of variation of community options.
Pinnacle.
Yeah, Pinnacle, yep. So, there's 3 seals to do that for the affixed.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, you're adopting, moving that way. Second the motion. Councillor Winky, thank you, moved. And seconded. Further discussion. Councillor Reinhold.
Just out of curiosity, how much did we get for Grace Street?
Pinnacle. Grace Street is sorry.
It's 260. Yeah.
260, yep. 1,000, that is.
Yeah,
By the way. Thank you. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 12, 10.3, mobile stage. The General Manager.
The policy, Mr Mayor, has been out for comment. There's no submission, so recommending there that the council adopts the new mobile stage policy.
Thank you. Councillor
Councillor Winky. In moving that motion.
Councillor Winky has moved that motion, so he's bit his tongue. Councillor Slade?
I'd love to second it if there is any connection between that motion and also the forthcoming visit to our Shire of the aforementioned machine.
Yes.
Is there a connection? Sorry, I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
I actually did have a talk to the owner of the business Tuesday, and he is planning as soon as the board is doing it, he's going to come down and do the warranty work on it.
Warranty work, so that's a good thing. Councillor Winky, further discussion.
I'm very pleased to hear that he's still in business.
We got off very lightly, Mr. Chairman.
Funny, that.
No further discussion.
I'm just wondering if the warranty's still valid. That was only 4 months.
Yeah, you've got to fix it. He loves it, really. He does. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 13, 10.4, Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, as Council will be aware, the federal government has provided another windfall in the form of a grant based on the Roads Recovery program. That's the funding formula for Roads Recovery. And under that program, Council has received $825,968. As I mentioned there, it's not competitive, but applications do have to be made under the project. So what I'm suggesting is that rather than try and deal with it at a meeting, that we have a small workshop, look at what's been funded, what hasn't been funded, look at what's come in through, or what's eligible and what's not, and consider council's priorities in that program.
Thanks, Mr. General. I know, councillors, you're all tickled pink about this, just the tsunami of money that the state and federal government is throwing at us, which, again, we're very grateful, will stimulate our economy even further and in our community. Hope we haven't run out of projects, of course, but
You'll never.
but the workshop councillors would give us that freedom and flexibility, I would have thought, to tease that out with the documents as the General Manager assisted, what's been funded, what other projects fit the bill, etc., etc. So, your thoughts, Deputy Mayor?
Mayor, yes, I'd like to move that we have a workshop and that staff put forward the paper on possible projects and
The second, Councillor Slade.
again.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion. And councillors, we will look at having that in the next couple of weeks, ideally, because we've got to. These have got to be finished by what, next year?
June next year. So the project's open, the application's open on the 1st of July. So really, we should be getting it as early as possible in July.
Okay. Further discussion, Councillor Judd.
Oh, just a question, gentlemen. Are we planning a committee meeting day in July or not?
Well, I actually had that as an item to mention. I think, the feeling last meeting was that we would have committees in July, if everyone's happy to continue with that. I think we can, given the fact we're not going to have probably full council in every committee, we can meet those requirements at the council chambers.
So, council, you're happy to resume committee meetings, the relevant ones that there's reasons for July?
Yes.
Okay, so there's consensus. Thank you. So no further discussion in relation to the motion to hold a workshop in relation to the federal government's local roads and community infrastructure program. I think it's important, council, we do have to, to be mindful and thank, our federal member and so on. This is, I think this is an outstanding program. I note that our good friends to the north would be particularly excited with their amount of 1.8 million. And it's good on them, and I hope that they put it to very good use in the appropriate places. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. That motion carried. Thank you. Page 19, 10.5, the COVID local government stimulus package. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This has already been alluded to by Councillor Slay earlier. Really, we're being tasked to sign a document that we don't necessarily agree with to access funds that we shouldn't have to pay. But I really don't see that we have an awful lot of choice but to accept the funds, even though the whole issue is based on inequity. Well, look, yeah, I'd say a lot more and a lot harsher words than that, but I have suggested there that Council sign the funding agreement, but that we write a strongly worded letter to the local government minister, and also obviously forward that to our local member and the JO. Yeah, it's Councillor Slay is quite right. It really is. It really sticks in the craw to have to do this, to be honest with you, because those that did the wrong thing and didn't join the JO aren't penalised like this. So.
Not one bit. Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Joe.
Could we know what the cost of membership of the JO for the next 2 years were going to cost us? Projected cost?
Well, this year it's 29,000. So, assuming over the next 2 years, similar 60,000 for 130 is good, better than bank interest. But we shouldn't have to do it. The bottom line is that they are two totally unrelated concepts, and that one shouldn't be held over as to the other.
But let's be frank. Let's be very, very, very frank here. I think you did very well. You did very well, but let's be very, very frank. That the reason, as I understand it, why that was put in that particular document is because they, the OLG, heard and were aware that there were several JOs that were, shock horror, not financially sustainable, and therefore some had resolved to actually leave their JOs. And not that we'd come to that level at this point, but formally, but other JOs that we're aware of had done so. So they got wind of that, and I put that on to the Minister's senior advisor in relation to that point, and to his credit, he conceded that certainly influenced the inclusion. So yes, there have been lots of frank discussions, councillors. When we've last discussed this, we've shared those views again with our state member, with the Minister's advisor. It is sickening, it is appalling that they would do this, that OLG would do this to member councils. It's when they know that it is not working. That's the thing that kicks us in the teeth and hurts big time. Councillor Slade.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think, if the motion was just the first part, I'd be voting against it. But given, I think, the very succinct expression down there that we write a strongly worded letter advising the Minister, etc., would it be inopportune or would it be inappropriate to make sure that the Shadow Minister also received a copy of our letter?
And the LGNSW President?
Well, yeah, we'll come on her, yeah.
Thank you. So, Councillor Slade, just in that, are you moving the recommendation with the inclusion of, I think that the protocol is we write to the state member and ask her to make representations to the Minister for Local Government. Further, that we write to the Riverina JO and LGNSW President and the Shadow Minister for Local, New South Wales Shadow Minister for Local Government. Thank you. Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councillor McLaren.
It won't take many years for that 136 to pale into insignificance when the fees of our JO just go on and on and on. Plus, there could be additional costs for secretariats in the future. This 29,000 is only going to go one way. I would be happy to call their bluff. I would be happy to not accept the stimulus package and not sign the document and take it into our budget, because otherwise we're conceding to what they want us to do, and it will keep going, and the JOs will be entrenched, and instead of winding them down, they'll be enhanced, and then they'll be saying, wind down your rocks and we'll just keep the JOs. And then they have their way, they'll have a legislative body that they can control now, and the rocks will fade away.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. Look, I think that's probably crossed all of our minds, and that was my initial reaction, and probably all of our initial reaction. And after, a lot of consideration, and I know how other councils are reluctantly adopting the motion that's before us today. So all of them are, again, we do what's right for us, but that's just for your information that reluctantly. I've said to you before that there was one general manager in our Riverina family that said in all his extended period, not the current Samora Shire one, but another one, that indicated in his over 30 years that this is the most disappointing decision that he's seen. And that's a very big statement if you look at history, I suppose, recent and otherwise.
I think the other thing too, Mr Mayor, is that when you look at who it affects, those councils that weren't members of the JO, who didn't do the right thing, don't have to sign up to be a member of the JO to get this fund. Any city council, it doesn't affect because they're not members of JOs, they can't be. So basically the only group it affects are the rural councils who have done the right thing. And they're punished because of it.
That's true. Council, just also remember that that our state member for Cootamundra, Steph Cook, has taken the concerns of her, well actually the entire Riverina JO family, actually. She's taken the lead on this and put in a submission to the Minister in relation to it, which I think is quite impressive. We did discuss in meetings with the member for Wagga and the member for Albury to express our disgust and disappointment in relation to this particular issue, and they were very good. However, to Miss Cook's credit, she took the ball and ran with it. And but again, it's obviously we've got until when? Tomorrow to sign the document.
No, 24th.
Oh, the 24th, I beg your pardon. Right. Anyway, sorry, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just think we have to stick to the resolution before us, I think, and hopefully that everybody else writes those letters strongly worded and see what comes of it, because if everyone kicks up a big enough stink, someone's going to have to listen somewhere along the line, so that happens.
Thank you. Councillor Winky.
Is there a little black book somewhere that we'll get our market name in it if we do go against this proposal? And it will mean that we'll get cooperative funding, but all these things, it sort of nearly smells a little bit that way when you read through it, that that's what could happen. That's the part that worries me.
Thanks, Councillor Winky, for your very frank assessment. And that is a question that's being asked, frankly, in every chamber. To be frank, it is. And I can't blame councillors for asking it. And I'd like to think that that would certainly not be the case, because it's not councillors that suffer if the funds are starved, it is our communities that suffer. So any government of any colours politically that would do such a thing, I would think that they'd rue the day that they'd ever think of doing such a thing to a community, particularly those in the bush. But again, those questions, Councillor Winky, are being asked across the Riverina Council chambers. So I thank you for adding to the number. Councillor Joe.
Well, I agree with Councillor McLaren and others. I think we should be taking a tougher stand. And even if we support this motion, I think we should add that our Mayor has been the chairman of River NGOs to seek support of other chairmen of JOs to get a deputation with the Minister, ASAP.
Well, thanks, Councillor Judd, but we've asked for that. We've asked for that already. So we're
demanded.
Well, Councillor Judd, we're trying to do things.
Don't quit talking all the time. But...
Well, Councillor Judd, I cannot express enough to you the amount of effort and time that has gone into this to date in trying to stand up for what we believe. So I can assure you that is happening and will continue to happen. I can assure you. And again, if that is something else that you want us to do, or the mover and seconder included, that that we try again to have yet another meeting with her. They are strongly committed, the Minister keeps repeating, of late, wasn't so much up until late February when we last met, when she was very, not as glowing in her thoughts of JOs at that time, but then in recent times when others look like that they're going to withdraw, the narrative has altered. So if you'd like us to, try again to have another session, then we will do that again. Yeah. So Councillor Slay and Councillor Oliver, you have moved and seconded the adoption of the recommendation on page 19 with the addition of the Shadow Minister for Local Government, Riverina JO, and our State President, and of course all going through our State Member. Unless you'd like to also add and further that recommend, or unless we have a new motion. Might be tidier. Yeah.
Might be tidy.
Yeah. So how about I put the motion that's before you.
I'll move the amendment.
Councillor Judd.
I'll move that motion, but add that we seek a deputation with the Minister. I mean, hopefully with a fellow chairman of JOs as well. So.
Okay. So you're moving an amendment that will include that. Yes. So therefore, the mover and seconder, are you happy then to, you wish to stick with your original motion? So you'll withdraw? Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Judd, you're moving that way, that the recommendation as appears on page 19 with the Shadow Minister's inclusion, the Local Government President and the Riverina JO, and who's requesting the meeting?
Where?
Tamora Shire.
Well, we're initiating to hopefully get support from other chairmen of JOs to come with us.
Yeah. Well, so we can try that again, and we'll. So seconded, Councillor Slay, moved and seconded. Further discussion.
I hope that the media will also do their part in this.
Yes.
I think it's about time we started to get that in, as other speakers have said. And the media can be very, very useful in that particular capacity.
Yes, that's true. But Councillor, I want to make it very, very clear though, I cannot begin to explain to you how hard that we have worked in relation to this space. So I don't want anyone to suggest or to think that we've been sitting on our hands, because that has not happened, would never happen. So there has been meetings with the Minister via the teleconference. There has been telephone conversations on a regular basis with state MPs relevant to our footprint. There has been meetings with the Minister's senior advisor, and we appreciate that. So we have been active, we'll continue to be active, and this will add further weight to try another round to have another go. So I just need to reiterate that point. So, thank you. So no further discussion. Councillor McLaren.
I'm not optimistic it'll have much effect to change what they're doing. anyway, that's all I can say really. I think as you say, you've spoken to them on numerous occasions. I'm not optimistic, but I think the impact of us cutting our budget and reducing our services to our community by that amount and having the public uproar of what we've had to do because this has been blackened over us may create a bigger scene in the public arena than us going behind the public to right if we've already tried those avenues. If the on-the-ground services being cut in our community because of this funding arrangement and the ongoing JO commitment, the community will speak up. Maybe.
Well, one way or the other, if they get their heads around this tangled web that we weave. But yes. But at the end of the day, councillors, that this has been a board representation been made as a result of the JO board anyway. So it's been done before. We'll do it again, and if this motion passes, tomorrow Shire will ask once again because this is probably timely actually because they're considering the stimulus package and the ESL dollars. So another round, and we just hope the minister will give us some time to hear what we have to say, which will also further enhance the submission made by the state member for Cootamundra on behalf of Riverina JO members as well. So, further discussion on the motion, the new motion. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No one's disputing that things haven't been done in the past. I'm certainly not anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think another meeting would hurt, particularly if there's more there making louder noises. As I said, pick up a loud enough stink, someone's going to start to listen eventually. So I don't think there's any harm in.
Oh, no.
So
I don't think. I just want to reiterate.
yes.
Yeah, that's all. But no, I certainly support what's before us. That's for sure. So no further discussion. General Manager.
Yeah, if I just make one point. I mean, we're talking about the requirements to access this stimulus package, but it goes back even further than that, and we've made representation in the past in relation to it. The imposition of this $136,000 on us for a policy direction of government where they decided they were going to pay for these cancers at 5 guys, and everyone's very happy with that. And we don't not support that. But for the government just to make a decision and say, by the way, you're paying for it, it's not a fair cop. Really. I mean, we are ratepayers, and then to be hit with $136,000 additional bill to meet a policy decision of the state government, I think is pretty ordinary.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Those in favour, would you please raise your hands? Those against, declare the motion carried. Councillor Winkelman, would you like your votes recorded? Thank you. Standing up for what you believe to be right and true. Don't think some of us wouldn't have liked to have gone that way, but thank you very much, Councillor. Look, it's an awful situation, but anyway, we'll get through it. Now, nothing of an urgent late nature from the General Manager?
No.
Thank you. Page 20, Councillors, Engineering Department Report. 11.1, Lakes and Tennery Intersection Lighting, the Engineering Technical Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The report is as written. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Councillors, you have a report there before you. You've also just resolved to have a workshop in relation to the federal government grant program, which that may well fit into, whether you'd like that referred to that for further, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. That's a good idea. This came from the Temora Police Community Committee. It was just a request from one of the taxi drivers that had to go out there to pick up some people from the jet boats and stuff like that. So, but it wasn't an urgent type of thing, just something to put into the plan, and perhaps this workshop, it's the ideal time to action it. But I'm just wondering about the design costs and stuff. I mean, all we're doing is putting a post in the ground with a light on it, aren't we?
Yes, well, we won't go there. And Councillor Oliver, you're joining me in declaring a non-pecuniary interest as executive members of the police and community consultant. Thank you. So, other comments, views? It certainly would fit, Mr. General Manager, to at least be considered by council.
Yeah, I'll add to this.
Okay. The Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
You moving that way?
Yes.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Reinhold, that we refer that matter to the workshop in relation to that federal government grant program. Note Councillor Oliver's and my non-pecuniary interest. The engineering and technical manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I guess it's not included in here because we weren't sure how far this would get, but if the design gets a go-ahead, once complete, you're up for about, depends if it's one or two lights. Two lights will be 50 grand, one light will be about 30 grand. This is for a street light, so intersection flag light. So I still think it's worth consideration, but just giving you forewarning that once the design's complete, that's what you're going to be up for.
Yeah. Well,
but it's not. It's to be honest, it's not. None of this process is dictated by council. We're following Essential Energy or a state government organisation. We're following their procedure.
Are we talking electric?
Yeah.
Battery?
No, electric. If we want it on our street lighting, which being on a main road should be, it'll be connected to grid power.
Thank you, Councillor. Just a reminder that we are being recorded, and just in case you weren't aware, I didn't announce that at the start of our meeting. So there's no further discussion. There's no further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Clear that carried. Thank you. Page 21, 11.2, unnamed road closure, the engineering technical manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, the report is as written and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
I'm happy to move the recommendation that we revert back to Crown Name.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren has moved that, seconded the Deputy Mayor. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Councillor Winky.
Just more information than anything else, but many years ago there was a bit of a thought that at one stage that'd be good if that was opened up to sort of give a bit of freedom in through there, but it's never been discussed since, so I figure 30 years has passed and I haven't heard any more about it, so I feel that, yeah, let's close.
That's a fair assumption. Thanks, Councillor Winky. The councillors, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the recommendation on page 21. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. No. Further motion to carry. Thank you very much. Councillors, page 23, 11.3, Urban Road Naming List, the engineering technical manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And same deal here. The report is as written. Happy to answer any questions.
Trying to find the proper list. Thank you. Councillors. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I've got no problems with either of those names being added to the list.
Thank you. Councillor Reinhardt.
Look, I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but they're all men. Like, don't have any women that have contributed to our heritage, our history.
Maybe they didn't bring them with them.
Well, I'm not sure, Councillor Reinhold, that I know that there's some question marks here, and that's what worries me. But we've got here one listed as Harmer, and we're not sure whether that's the reason. And then another one for Brown. I would think that would be a strong possibility if that's correct. But I'm just a bit concerned that we're not sure about those. Councillor Slade?
I was just going to make a note to clarify the situation regarding Harmer, because I used to get regularly briefed on this every time I ran into the good man. It wasn't because he was a local identity. Anyone who knows he knows he was a local identity, but his grandfather was the first garbage collector in Temora, and therefore he felt there should be a street named after him. So it just seemed to be the information, and that was the information that was passed on when his name was added to the list.
So is Mr. Les Harmer
Les was Ken's grandfather.
Oh, we thought it was the current Mr. Les Harmer.
The current Mr. Les Harmer is no longer current.
Well, there's another one.
The current's died out, yeah. But no, it was, so that's where it was. It was an historical person rather than...
Okay, and that was back a few years ago, wasn't it?
I've ended the story. 2 years.
Yeah. Okay, so we need to probably put some more meat around that. I just thought with the question marks there, it doesn't look like...
I know, but we're running discussing the names of Bloomfield, Tozer, Parker and Becker, and that's in the recommendation, Mr Mayor. So really, Harmer, we're not really discussing.
Already on the list.
Harmer's on the list.
That's true, but I think by way of clarification, I think that's helpful because of the question marks that are there. It it didn't give us a lot of confidence. Councillor Oliver, is your...
Just a comment about Councillor Reinhold's. The names here are historic names that come from an era when the women were mainly home looking after children, and that's probably why this is like this. But I mean, as time goes by, with the equity we have nowadays, there'll be women's names come up later on. But these are historic names mostly, so that's probably the reason why they're all names. So, yeah.
But some of the women have the same surnames, though, don't they, as the fellow?
But you've got to remember, Mr Mayor, behind every good man there's a good woman. So
I know that.
Perhaps they should be.
That's for sure.
Maybe recognised too. So.
Thank you. Councillor McLaren.
I'm happy to move the recommendation with an addition that more research be conducted into eminent female pioneering women in our heritage for future naming lists specifically.
So second of...
No, I'm just going back.
Yeah, is there a second of the motion?
I'll second
Councillor Slade, moved and seconded. This is Councillor Winky.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that there was quite a few hospitals in the early days and midwives who acted in a big capacity as far as the town was concerned. For sure, they've got to be out there, so to speak. Plenty of names that we can pick from, I'm suggesting.
Thank you. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. You need only refer to the Prince Temora Shire Cemeteries publication, 25 Interesting Lives, and there's several women in that booklet that have already had research done that may be eligible for such an accolade.
Thank you. Councillor Reinhold.
It was just after our discussion about the National Treasure list.
Yes.
That got me thinking, and then I looked at this and I thought, hello, why can't some of our women be recognised?
That's true, and it's a matter for the council of the day to determine, what names they want referred. Because obviously,
a lot of women there, men went off to war.
Yeah.
They ran the farm.
Or the business, or the whatever.
Business
yeah.
Or whatever. So.
No.
Anyway,
that's very true.
Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
No. Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I look at all these names and I think of the names as family names, not Mr. Brown or whoever. But when you put a street name up or a road name up, it's a family name and not Max Brown or Fred Jones or whoever thing. That actually the family is what I look at it as. Oh yeah, this, not Fred Jones, but the Jones family.
That's a good point, Councillor Smith, and that's, to be frank, probably what I thought too. But then I suppose with what's before us here, I can understand why Councillor Reinhold will be looking, because they've sort of just specifically referenced, the gentleman as opposed to the family. But I think it's a good reminder, because I would have thought councils of the day that have considered these names referred to this list would be the family name. But anyway, that's fine. The other councillors, I know we have a motion before us. I would ask that they consider to include, there's one, I spoke to the General Manager how went about this, and we thought that this was the appropriate time. I'd like to see included in that list is Murphy. Now, I've spoken to the engineering department and whether the Murphy family name has any road names or street names. They haven't. And I particularly mentioned, of course, the late Mr. Murphy, who is a past Shire president, both at Narrabri and Temora. And I feel that it is important that he also be added to the list to be considered, because remember, this is for development, so anyone that's doing these, they select what they feel is best suited for their development. Or if council have one day did something as well. So the mover and seconder, would you be happy to include that? Thank you, Councillor Slade. Thank you, Councillor Parham. Okay, councillors, so you have a motion before you. Are you all clear on that motion that the names listed there on page 24, plus that we further seek the Secretary, could you please read that? Thank you. So, it's an inclusion of the Murphy family. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion to. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very, very much for that. And of course, that 11.4 has been referred to closed session. We now go over to page 29, 11.5, the Temora Airport Master Plan updates. The engineering technical manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is an item on an IPNR item of mine, and I've just asked the town planner to provide council with an update of where actions from the master plan are up to. So yeah, the report is as written, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, any comments or any questions in relation to the master plan updates? Which council would appreciate?
Yes.
Councillor Oliver, you okay?
Just wondering whether we skipped the naming of the Victoria Street crossing.
That's been referred to closed.
Oh, that's too. I was going to read that somewhere now. Thank you.
Right, thank you. It slipped through the cracks. Councillors, any comments, questions? Otherwise, you have a recommendation on page 41 that we note the progress.
Also moved in a sense of gratitude for the work that's gone into preparation for 3D brought things up to speed as far as I was concerned.
Thanks very much. Councillor Slade, second Councillor McLaren. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in that opinion, please say aye. Aye. If you know, the motion carried. Thank you very much. And nothing of a further urgent, late nature from the engineering department? No, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Is that a confident shake? No. Thank you. Councillors, we proceed to page 42 of your business paper. The Environmental Services Department report 12.1, the LEP amendment. The Director.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The last step in this process, as far as council is concerned, before it's considered, and for council's decision.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you have the LEP amendment there, your consideration, and you have a recommendation before you. Councillor Winky.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Moved. Councillor Winky, second Deputy Mayor. Moving a recommendation. Further discussion?
Just a minor thing,
Councillor
the
Slade.
legal, what to say, the legal opinion and relevant maps are attached. Does that, Tomorrow Local Environment Plan 2010, is that the legal?
That's been drafted, Councillor Slade, by the Parliamentary Council.
Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah.
So that page before the map is, thanks very much. It just wasn't quite clear to me what the legal opinion was. I thought they always a lot longer and a lot more expensive. Yeah.
That's true. That is true. There's no further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 47, Councillor, 12.2, proposed clubhouse for Temora Antique Motor Club, and that is in the hands of the Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is the request from the Temora Antique Motor Club, who are interested in the council's support, not financial at this stage, for a proposed clubhouse on the Pigeon Crump land in Aurora Street. Bring it to council's attention.
Thank you. Councillors. Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, it seems like they're not asking council for any funding, or not likely to in the future. Any problems with the council approving it? Principle anyway.
Giving a letter of support, Mr Deputy. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Second that.
Oh.
Yeah. Didn't move it on.
So you support the Deputy Mayor's remarks, Councillor?
I do.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I spoke to Jason Wood this morning. They had their meeting last night. And we haven't been able to talk to each club haven't been able to talk to each other because of the need to have because of the COVID-19 restrictions. But I spoke to the president of the Road Track Club, which is the club I'm in, and also the secretary, who was the previous president. We don't have any issues sharing that facility, but it'll be, we'll have a meeting and discuss it formally. In the meeting that Jason said they had last night, there was no issues with them sharing that with us as well. So it seems like everything's okay. And the sort of people that get off their backsides and go out and raise funds, they do show and shines, and they run the driver reviver and all that sort of stuff. So there's always a pretty good cash flow. I was the treasurer of our club at a time, and there's a goodly amount of money there to cover any electricity costs or rates or whatever that might be. So I don't see any problems with it. I think Jason's looking at grant funding fully, I would say, to achieve this. So I support a lot of, I don't know if anyone's moved it yet, but we give an in-principle support to this particular club at this time so they can proceed with their grant application.
So that we provide in principle support for the project. So seconder, thank you, Councillor Smith. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Councillor McLaren.
In the guidelines, it doesn't require them to have consent to lodge the application. It says that as long as relevant discussions at the time of your application have commenced. So, and then you don't have to have the evidence of consent of the approval to July 2021, so 12 months' time. So I think this has great potential. I think there's a lot of potential that could be done with youth and things in the mechanics side of things. My only concern is there's been very little community consultation up to date, and I'd be happy to issue a letter of to say relevant discussions have commenced with council for their grant application to proceed. That's absolutely fine, but I'd like to take the time in the next 12 months to have those, just to make sure there's transparency and have a community meeting and the community are aware of it and can voice their support.
So in other words, Councillor McLaren, you'd also like that included in the community strategic plan?
I'd like to, yes, I'd be very happy to have it in the community strategic plan for investigating it, and I'd be happy to support the grant application with a letter saying that relevant discussions are occurring rather than council in principle support. I think that might, I don't know whether that would be inferred as consent.
Thanks, Councillor McLaren. The General Manager.
Just so the community strategic plan is not for us to change. That's a document provided by the community which we respond to. But so we don't actually make changes to the community plan. We make changes to the way we respond to the community plan, or if there's something else comes in, we can put it in our documents. But the community strategic plan is actually the community's plan, not council's.
So that's true, but I understood that council had, the different notions and ideas that may come forward that they're able to be
to the delivery plan.
if council wishes. Yeah.
So it would be more appropriate to refer to the delivery plan for investigation. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what we're considering today. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion before us from Councillor Oliver and Councillor Smith that we provide in principle a letter of in principle support, which obviously doesn't commit council to assent, but you've also heard from Councillor McLaren as well. So move and seconder, do you wish to stand by your original motion, but would probably need to include, if you did, that delivery plan referral at least.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with putting in that delivery plan, so.
So you, the mover and second, are happy to include that. Okay. Further discussion on the motion. If not, I'll put it to you. Councillor McLaren.
Could you just clarify the motion, please?
So my understanding is that the motion is that we provide in principle support to the project, Temora Antique Motor Club, and further that the project be referred to the delivery plan of Temora Shire Council for consideration.
So it would be added to the delivery plan?
That's my understanding.
So that will be the document we're adopting later in the meeting?
So we've got to do it today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the delivery plan, it's the investigate the issue of an antique motor club, so that we can have those discussions with the clubs and the community.
Yes, well, the last resolution, Mr. General Manager, that we had about this was about discussions with other clubs. So we've heard advice from Councillor Oliver that those discussions have occurred.
Not formally, but...
Not formally, informally.
Because of the current situation.
That's right. So, because the last advice that you had, that you gave us, was understood that there was not perhaps likely to happen. However, things seem quite positive if we looked at it currently. Gentlemen.
Yeah, no, my point was that when we consider the delivery plan later in the meeting, we need to add that to it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Councillor McLaren, are you clear on?
Oh, I'm clear. As long as the in-principle support doesn't commit us to.
Oh.
If there's some.
No way. Not a cent, because I wouldn't be supporting it if it did. Yeah, thank you. Move and second are happy. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. No. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Nothing of an urgent, late nature from the Director of Environmental Services?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Page 50, councillors, the Administration Finance Department report, 13.1, the construction of foot paving curb gutter policy, the Director.
Thank you, Mayor. So, the report is as presented, and just by way of background as to why I'm putting it up, at the main meeting there was a query about the contributions required for curb and gutter works, and so I amended the fees and charges, as you'll see later, And I was just firming up the words in the policy so that that couldn't be misconstrued in any way, making it a bit clearer how we actually calculate the contribution.
Thank you. I think the culprit's about to be called. Councillor Judd.
I thank the director for making that amendment and glad to move the recommendation.
Thank you. So you move that those amendments be made to the policy. Thank you, second, Councillor Hinkley. Thank you, move and second. Is there any further discussion? The director, the manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question of Councillor Judd. Do you think with that change, it's likely that Wellman Street may be worth reconsideration at a future budget, or is it?
Maybe, but
yeah,
certainly not for this budget now. Anyway.
No, it's done and dusted for this budget. But I've taken the project out altogether.
Yeah. It's certainly going to help, though. They're put off by the projected costs initially, I think. But anyway, maybe worth revisiting. But
yeah, that's fair enough.
Thank you. There's no further discussion. Not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. No. We have the motion carried. Thank you very much. Page 55, 13.2, draft fees and charges, the director.
So the report is as presented. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Comments or questions to the director? If not, there is recommendation there for you to consider. No submissions. There you go. See, but we will have more during this COVID period. Councillor Winky.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver, second the motion. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Not, so I'll put that motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Page 59, 13.3, rating the director.
So the maximum interest rates, so the report's as presented. First time I've seen them put two different interest rates into the year. But, yeah, so happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
First time this year for a lot of things. I think.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'll move recommendation.
The Deputy Mayor's moving. That second, Councillor Smith moved and seconded that we adopt the recommendation on page 59. No further discussion. Councillor Oliver.
Actually, I got a reminder the other day that I hadn't paid my rate instalment and I copped the 17 cent on top of the rate. I don't recall getting the renewal.
That's what they say.
Has he paid?
Yes, he paid it.
Oh, good. I was going to say, having escorted from the chamber.
He rang up sewer and I was very embarrassed by it. And anyway.
Well, thank you for sharing it just within 5 minutes chamber.
So I've contributed that extra 17 cents.
That's well done.
Only a fortnight overdue.
No, I thank you for that, Councillor Oliver. If there's no further discussion, if not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. No. The motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, over to page 60, 13.4, rates and charges. The director.
So making the rate, so the rates are incorporated into the 2.6% rate fee.
Thank you. 2.6 is certainly better than one we had several years ago, 1.8. Yes, Councillor McLaren.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
You move the recommendation that we make the above rates and charges for the 1st of July 2020 to the 20th of June.
Yeah, that's been modified.
Oh, good, thanks. 30th of June, Councillor Winkley, second the motion. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Not. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you. Page 63, 13.5, the draft operational plan. The very busy director.
Yes, so the delivery plan, operational plan, and resourcing strategy will display 28 days. No submissions received. So, of course, we've just got the one amendment now in relation to the proposed clubhouse for the antique motor club. So
in addition to, so it's the recommendation plus the addition. Yep. Thank you. Councillor Slade, you're moving that way. Second for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Nothing of an urgent late nature from the Director? No? Thank you very much. Councillors, let's now proceed to page 64, correspondence, and 14.1, Springdale Speed Zone, the General Manager.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I might hand this over to the Engineering Technical Manager, as it's his section, and it's the authoriser.
Thank you. The Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so you'll recall, I think it first went to the Traffic Committee and then there's some recommendations made there and then Council made a resolution out of that. However, I guess when it boils down to it, Council doesn't really, it's more for consultation as opposed to, decision making. And Transport for New South Wales have proceeded to continue on with the speed zoning of speed zone change at Springdale. I guess the only thing to note there is that they have plans to deliver consistent zoning back to the Hume Highway. Just sounds like Springdale's the first one to fall. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. So are you suggesting that letter, because I see the word recommended there. Now, I think the Deputy Mayor suggested earlier that their polite way of saying you will.
No, I read that as that their internal staff have recommended that change, but it's their decision. It's not recommending that we endorse the change. It's
saying
they've
you will adopt it, and this is.
I don't think we need to. To be honest, I think it's more for council information than anything else.
So basically,
horses bolted.
The horses bolted is what you're saying, Councillor Judd.
Well, I think we should strongly oppose this recommendation. At the moment, like you go from 80 down to the 60, and to make the whole 80 zone, the 60 zone back to 50, just going to be another revenue raiser for this government. It's going to be a really long period. You're going to travel right back to 50. I think we should keep it at the 50, where it was. Yes. No, but I mean, not have the extended one, just have the shorter, whereas presently 60, go back to 50, but not any further.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support Councillor Judd here. It's 1.2 kilometres long. People are going to get impatient. They're going to speed up and they're going to be police at the bottom of the hill there and they're going to be raising revenue like anything. It's just far too long. I mean, there's no need to have it as long as that. I think just the length of the village is adequate. It's not a big village. It's not a busy place, and I just think 1.2 kilometres long is just too far to be going 50 kilometres an hour. Oh, you know what it's like when you drive through hard and you get a little bit heavy on the foot.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Smith.
Well, this came up at the traffic meeting and nobody was in favour of it, but I still think I'm going to force the choose. All right, that's a 34 seconds long. That 34 seconds could cost you a lot of money, because 50 k's today, in the vehicles today, if you're driving an FJ Hull and you had to pull up, you need a bit of room. Today, they'll stand you on the head just about. But to me, I just think I'm totally disgusted, especially when everybody, even the Springdale Progress Association says, look, we don't want it.
That's a good point, Councillor Smith. Particularly you as the chairman of the Temora Traffic Committee, you're quite right. I sit on that as the state members rep, and yes, you're quite right. It was there wasn't any support, although I think the RMS rep was a bit fence sitting, as I understand it. But Yeah, no, I think you make a good point. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, and the other issue too with heavy vehicles, because Springdale's basically in a valley or a hole, heavy vehicles, either which doesn't matter which way they're going, it's quite a significant pull out, like it adds to fuel emissions and so forth, noise, and I go there through there reasonably often in trucks, and both ways it's a pull out of the place. So the slower you pull away, big difference between 50 and 60, you lose your momentum. That is a big issue. Truck must certainly have that's their costs and so forth, not only in time to get somewhere, but also their fuel usage.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Well, it's like Councillor Sinclair said, being in a hollow, what do? They'll pull the exhaust brakes on to slow down, and the people on the edges are going to be saying, hey, what are you doing? You know, they're keeping us awake at night or whatever. You know, I just think it's an absolutely crazy decision to take that back there. If you said, right, it's 80 all the way through, I don't think that'd be a drama. A lot of other places you go to, like Springdale, they're 80 goes. You can drop back to 80, but they drop back to 60. Said, right, we're going to knock the 80 off and just 60 for that little bit in the middle. You could put up with that, but this is going to create a mayhem for the trucks that are coming through there, and there's a lot of trucks go through there. But I totally disagree with it. I'll vote against it anyhow, whatever.
Thank you. The Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I guess the thing of note is that I recall this exact conversation last time, and the council resolved that there'd be no change, and they rejected their proposal last time when we wrote to them, and they've responded and basically said that it's our decision, not yours. And they don't approve transitional zones either, so the idea of, say, replacing the current 60s with 50s and retaining the 80s, they won't accept that either.
The only way, Mr. Manager and council, that I can see that we could go down the path, and I think it probably is worth a try, is making strong representations, particularly if it's a unanimous view of council, to Ms. Cook, because it's only by political intervention that it will potentially be changed.
I agree with that. There's no point in me going back to RMS because
they'll
find someone else to put it up.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Wink.
I suggested if you go down that track that maybe it would be good to also enrol Mundra and Hilltops in that discussion as well, and because it's going to be all the way through and look at how far they've made the 60 zone while actually the stock and mineral been extended both sides, and it's just getting further and further all the time. And might as well just have it 60 all the way through the city and be done.
No, that's a fair point. Well, Councillor Judd.
I'm willing to move a motion.
Yes.
I'll move a motion that we advocate that the new 50 zone only be where the present 60 zone is, no further. That we seek the cooperation of neighbouring shires on the Belly Griffin Way and to campaign to have a sensible approach.
So making representation of the state member. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Discussion on the motion, Councillor Parrott.
Just clarification, the 80k area, do you want that to go up to 100? The current bit where it's 80. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
No transition period.
Well, tomorrow's got transition.
It's not too bad.
They don't. Yeah, I know.
That's through you, Mr.
So the manager.
Yeah, when they review new, they don't add transitional zones anymore. So as they're updating,
So we can. Oh, they want to get rid of them.
well, we've got transitional zones. I think they work quite well for large residential areas.
Okay, so we'll leave it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. So, Councillor Judd and Councillor Winky have moved the resolution. Have we got that? Ladies?
Council makes strong representations to the state member to advocate that the 50 kilometre zone be where the current 60 kilometre zone is.
Mover and seconder, and that we seek the, oh yes,
Oh,
cooperation.
and that we seek the cooperation of the neighbouring shires.
Hilltops, Cootagunga. Yeah. Thank you. Mover and seconder, happy? Thank you. No further discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Move the motion carries. Thank you. Oh, sorry. So Councillor Smith, you're recording your vote against that motion?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. Duly noted. Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to late correspondence. 14.2, measure up the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is an application for this measure up bus, bowling bus, to be located next week. But they only got it into us a couple of days ago. For next week, in front of the community centre, they have been there before. They work on referrals from the doctor. They are a private organisation, as I understand it, but they get referrals from the medical complex, and yeah, it's for council's consideration. Has happened before. It had to come late because it's next week. Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Winking.
I noticed them there the last time they were there. It didn't seem to be a hassle where they were, so I think it all worked well there, just where they were. I'm happy to move this.
So you'll move that we grant approval.
Yeah.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. We have further discussion.
Yes.
Discussion, Councillor Reinhold.
If they could not be right out the front door of the community centre,
Yes.
down a little bit so that people can
Bit
still
more up
see them.
towards
Yeah. I decide.
the north, yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you. If this motion is passed, if the engineering team can convey that to the, who needs to be conveyed. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Not, so I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. There, the motion carried. Thank you very much. Any urgent items, correspondence, late? No, thank you. Councillors, motion now to receive the information papers, please, on page 67. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Oliver, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, any items you wish to draw the council's attention in relation to the information paper? I think the Director of Administration and Finance, you wanted to just touch on page 76 in relation to the rate collection, keeping in mind part of that statistic was the councillor who spoke earlier.
In relation to COVID-19, is that this time last year we had rates outstanding of 6%, and this year it's sort of 3% higher than that at 9%. Probably not unexpected.
Yeah. They've done pretty good, haven't they, overall? Most anyway.
I didn't get the review.
The post, actually, the post is good bloke. Any other items, councillors? If not, councillors, we proceed to notice of motion, which are nil for open council, business without notice. Councillor Reinhold, business without notice.
Just a question about the RV park. Is it finished? Is that it?
Just an update, yes. Can we have the manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there's some tidying up to do. We're pretty much completely excluded. We've provided some fill and done a contract job for them where we installed some sewer main services. So they've sent us an email the other day and basically just asked if we could assist in them tidying up the site in operation. I think there's a shed to go, but yeah, it's pretty much all been done through local contractors in conjunction with their CMCA's representative. So yeah, there's just some little tidy up stuff, but some trimming of trees, some removal of rocks and different things, but yeah, it's about it.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Oliver? No? Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one, it's more or less a question, I guess. Dates for assets and operations meetings and also council meetings, can that be forwarded to us so that it goes onto our calendar? I know most council meetings are the third Thursday, but sometimes the assets meetings are a little bit funny when they come in.
On the Tuesday prior, yeah.
Just that I was planning a holiday and I wasn't sure when the days were going to be, that was all. So I don't know whether that can be done for the entire year. Is that something that's too onerous or?
Well, that's something that perhaps the General Manager can take on notice and look at that.
Yeah, because
I know Relock certainly, and Riverina JF4, they have those, what do you call them? Things on the computer that you click and it puts on your computer diary. Yeah. Oh, as you found.
How many, just for reference, actually use Outlook as their for all their meetings?
Well,
I'd like it.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's good because you get that little reminder 15 minutes before, 10 minutes before.
Yeah, I just don't want to send it out assuming you're getting it. You don't get it.
But that's not replacing the normal meeting notice and visitors. That's part of.
Yeah.
Not instead of.
No, not instead of, but just extra.
The General Manager
doesn't happen, but just that's it.
The General Manager will look at that and see what options that there are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Oliver?
The other question is it possible to have our rates notices emailed?
Yes.
It is? Yes. I would like to take up that option. I'll go and see Sue about that.
So we just, we missed the rates notices last year, but on the instalment notices, opt-in, it's called, I think, secure mail. So when your rates notice comes out, you'll get a flyer with it and we'll give you registration details of how to sign up, and then they'll be emailed to you. But you can speak to Sue before. So your next notice will come out in July. You can speak to Sue earlier.
I think I will, because this has happened twice. But one from the taxation department, it cost me some money for a late payment as well. And honestly, I think it's the postage problem.
Fair assumption.
I'll talk to Simon about that.
Thank you. Nothing further?
No, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Winky? No business without notice. Thank you. Councillor McLaren?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you. The Deputy Mayor? Would. Many happy returns. The Deputy Mayor had a big birthday yesterday, so many happy returns for that.
Where's the cake this year?
Yeah, that's, I hope, later.
Last night, my grandkids.
What was the 70? What number? 70. Wanting to know what number it was.
67.
67. Sorry, I got mixed up. 70. Well, that's 67.
Yeah, I don't know about 67.
Anyway, every birthday is a blessed one as far as I'm concerned. Thank you. Councillor Smith.
All's good.
All's good. Thank you. Councillor Judd.
One of the items came up the other day at the Roads Congress meeting was the concern about all our grants coming in one big rush all the time and the pressure of councils under to complete at one time. And I know things probably not going to change. We're not going to probably knock grants back on it. But I'd just like to probably commend our staff, particularly for their managers, I know they've been able to pump in recent weeks trying to get, especially round one of the drought finished in time. And I think, it wasn't helped by the federal government. We made a decision on round one back in November, didn't get approved of it till end of February, you know. Then they expect us to have it all done by end of June, you know. It's, but I think I'd just like to compliment our staff from Gap to May to reach the deadlines. It's, you know, it's not easy to deal with all the factors you've got to deal with.
Very true. Thanks, Councillor Judd. And yes, you're quite right that our staff have been under the pump and really every department, but we are very grateful to them for their commitment, putting up with our encouragement. And again, we're all anxious for these projects to come to fruition as well, but everyone's doing their best, and I think as long as the staff remember that, we do appreciate it. Thank you, Councillor Judd.
That's all. Thank
you. Councillor Slade. Nothing? Thank you.
Mr Mayor, excuse me.
Councillor Winky.
Is there any way that we could sort of probably even get the government to sort of start the time frame from once the grants are signed, sealed and delivered? Because it's simply that big waste of time in between once we know that it's coming, when it actually gives us that permission to start. It's something we're looking forward to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think the delay is between the sort of, well, it's not even the announcement, it's the advice to start, then they seem to delay it so they get political advance by announcing it, and then the sign, seal and deliver. That's the slow part, putting it into contracts and getting milestones, etc. That is the bit that the government seems to struggle with.
So that your time frame for the bill started at the time of signing it, it's getting done then. So it went, you know, 6 months or 12 months to do it, at least, and that it should start from a reasonable time.
Signing is the last part because they've got, that's when they've got to discover milestones and work out timelines, etc. And then you sign on the dotted line, then you go. That's the delay.
Should be the start of this.
Good 3 months, as you said, November to.
Yeah. It takes too long.
So, well, maybe is it worth writing a note to our state member to flag those?
I move that we do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Well, there's no harm in that. Second, Councillor Judd moved and seconded that we write to the state member for Cootamundra, Ms Cook, asking her to advocate for a review of the, I suppose, at the time.
Thanking her for the grants, of course, and
oh yeah, definitely.
Oh well, that's
the grants are good, but
it
puts a lot of pressure on that time frame to be done in that time frame.
Yeah. Thank you, the General Manager.
The other problem is the grants we're talking about, federal grants.
No. I thought you were talking about the roads.
Come up with the roads conference, right?
Yeah.
But probably talking about grants in general.
Oh, right.
Federal and state.
Sorry, okay. So therefore, both the movement and second are happy with both federal and state.
Oh, definitely.
Yep, okay. Sorry, I thought it was specific to roads. Okay. So moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. The motion carried. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Now, I just had a couple of things we're talking about. Thank yous. I have here that we should send a note to our state member for the recent library grant funding, which was terrific. It was sort of a bit of a surprise that there was going to be an announcement. We sort of weren't really sure of that. So that's, Councillor, if you're happy with to send a letter to Ms Cook in that space. So works, the Director, it's under your portfolio, works will commence, I would assume, in the coming weeks.
So we've already spoken to David Scobie to get him to do up some more detailed plans, and he's sort of indicated that approximately. So then we'll go from there. Yeah.
But we haven't got a restricted time.
I think it has to be spent by the end of the year.
Okay. Thank you. The other thing, councillors, that I want to, I mentioned it in the Mayor Amendment last month, but I say it now still with the same sincerity, but I wanted to warmly commend our community, our councillors and our staff for the manner in which we continue to contend with the coronavirus situation. It's, I think everyone has been far as I'm concerned, has done their very, very best. I think as restrictions gradually ease, I just hope complacency doesn't set in as potentially it can, but we still have to pay heed to our relevant authorities and their advice. But I think everyone's really taken it seriously. I think the General Manager would agree with that. So I just wanted to put on record thanks to everybody for the manner in which we've handled a very challenging situation. Councillors, you would have read about the new Chief Executive appointed for Local Government New South Wales. We have written to him congratulating him on his appointment and extended an invitation to him to come and visit with us. So Mr Scott Phillips, the new CEO, asked me to pass on to Council his warm thanks for our good wishes, and he's taking up the reins on the 6th of July, and he will be, as soon as the travel restrictions are lifted, he will be joining the President in his next round of visits, and will be visiting with us in the not too distant future. So that's for your information. And lastly, that talking with the Agricultural Minister, Mr Marshall, on the other day, and mentioning about meeting with him further to discuss the Small Agriculture Innovation Centre. So he's obviously looking forward to a business case that he will receive to consider, whether they can look at recurrent funding or not. So, but I was just very pleased that that was one of the first things that he asked is how we were going with it, because obviously he's keen to at least sit and see what we've got to say and what we've got to put to him. So that's something that is being worked on, as I understand it. And Ms Cook's also indicated that she's put a request in to the new acting Minister for Arts, excuse me, which is the Premier, for us to meet. Remember that she offered a meeting with the former Minister, who's no longer the Minister, but to her credit, she's actually indicated that to discuss, of course, our arts precincts. So that's just to let you know that. Nothing further. Visit notice, General Manager.
Yes, it's one, Mr Mayor, and that is to let council know that we have, we met today, a group of us regarding the Drought Communities program, as Councillor Judd alluded to earlier. We do have surplus funds. The estimate, we've still got some accounts coming in. The estimate's about $15,000 that we've got remaining, which has to be spent in 2 weeks' time. And most of the projects are completed, so we're fairly confident in that figure. I've had 2 submissions. Basically, the rules are the government has indicated, or the department has indicated that they will allow existing projects to be embellished, but they won't allow new projects. So we can't say we want to do something totally different. So we had a look at the projects that we've still got that are there that we could possibly use. There are 2 that have been raised with council, one being the arts precinct for a solar system around there, and the other one was the Peppers landscaping. We're waiting on quotes for the solar system, and I think we're talking up to 10,000.
Get through you, that has arrived on the phone. 6.6 kilowatt for 7.5, but I'm suggesting that we might a little bit heavier.
There's a $500 allowance that's not included in the quote.
Yeah.
I think if you allow somewhere between 8 and 10.
8 and 10.
Yeah. And the other one is the item out at the landscaping, which is already funded, but it was to do a more comprehensive job. So the question is, which one do you want us, or how do you want us to deal with that? Given we can't prepare a report because we only met today and it's got to be completed in
So what other options, Mr. Gentleman, other than the two that you've had suggested to you, what other options are available to council?
There were quite a few. Well, I'll go through the programs that we had. There was the Coolman Street Centre Island upgrade, which is fully expended. Tamora Showground was fully expended. Area Park Showground it was slightly over, I think. Yeah, slightly over. Under. Sorry. The Area Park Rec Ground dump point fully expended. Area Park Railway Station went a little over. Then you've got the Area Park Memorial Hall building repairs, which I think is going to be fully expended. Petrick Hall, fully expended. Springdale Hall will be fully expended. Narraborough Church Hall is overspent. The Salvation Army Church will be slightly overspent. Tamora Uniting Church was very slightly, a few dollars over. Tamora Presbyterian Church was just over. Tamora Lutheran Parish was just over. Area Park Pool, and this is where there's a bit of fluidity about it because we've moved programs, the upgrade of the change rooms is it's all within the scope of what we're doing, but that's going to be slightly under. The Area Park Pool to the skate park footpath is fully expended. The Area Park Rural Housing Project we talked about. Camp Street tree planting is right on budget. Apollo Street fencing is slightly under. The airport is fully expended. Airport security fence is fully expended. The arts precinct will be slightly under. Lakes and Tannery planning on the eastern bank is pretty well fully expended. Narraborough Street ceiling, the sandpipe will be well under, and the Agricultural Innovation Centre irrigation lines will be well under. So when you add all those in, you've got about $15,000 amount there. But you know the problem is the time frame. We need it done within 2 weeks.
So out of that, sorry, Council.
Is this just for round one?
This is round one.
It can't be kept and rolled over in round two. No. That'll be too sensible.
We either spend it on one of these projects, or we send it back.
Okay, so I just wanted council to have a fully informed decision. So they've got two options that have been flagged.
Yeah.
And everything else you're saying is...
Yeah, look, I think most of the others, we investigated quite a few of the others, and they've done very well out of it. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Slade.
I'd like to suggest that we get the solar panels, and there's a fluidity there about the price, but whatever you recommend, put those on for the Arts Centre, and that the remainder be used for the feathers.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I was going to make the same recommendation, so I'll second that.
Yep, thank you.
I was going to say the same thing, so it's covered.
So, moved and seconded.
Sounds like I haven't got an original thought.
Moved and seconded. Is there no further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those that opinion, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Leave the motion carried. Thank you.
Could I say, you look at the projects that have been funded under this, and you realise what, $20,000 or $30,000 to some of these small communities makes an enormous difference. And it's got some work done around the place.
It's very, very good. Thank you very much. Now, it's good to see that we're coming under budget. That's very good. Thank you. Now, in accordance with Section 10 of the Local Government Act 1993, advised that there are several matters that are deemed confidential. Accordingly, I have require a motion to have those matters considered. Councillor Slade, Councillor Oliver, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Liz and Melanie. closed session. And councillors, on page 5 of your pink papers, you have the Mayor's report, which performance...
That's off.
I can't wait till we get back to the chamber. Thank you. Resume into open council. I require now to read the resolutions that have been adopted and are now approved to come into open council. The first resolution is the General Manager's Performance Review of May 2020. On the motion of Councillor Reinhold and Councillor Smith, it was resolved that the General Manager's Performance Review information be carried. Performance Review, notes of Performance Review and carried. The Industrial Land Area Park, on the motion of Councillor Judd and Councillor Slade, resolved that Council let the matter lay on the table. That motion was carried. Item titled Local Business. On the motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Winkley, it was resolved that Council note the report, and that motion was carried. Next resolution was Safe and Secure Water Funding. On the motion of Councillor Winkley and the Deputy Mayor, it was resolved that Council proceed with the proposal, and the motion was carried. Drought Relief Heavy Vehicle Program. On the motion of Councillor Winkley and Councillor Oliver, it was resolved that Council endorse the application and allocate Council funding should the application be successful, and that motion was carried. The next resolution, Property Damage Claim. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith, it was resolved that Council take no action on the matter, and that motion was carried. Next resolution, naming of Victoria Street level crossing. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith, it was resolved that Council refer the matter to the Heritage Committee to consider appropriate course of action. The motion was carried. And further, the motion of Councillor Judd and Councillor Slade that the family name be referred to the list of possible road and street names. That resolution was carried. The next resolution, winning and crushing of gravel tender. On the motion of Councillor McLaren and the Deputy Mayor, it was resolved that Council select the preferred supplier for Part A, preferred suppliers for Part C and D. That resolution was carried. Formalisation of independent living unit. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Winkley, it was resolved that Council endorse the actions of the Director of Environmental Services in accepting the tender of Durham's Building Proprietary Limited, trading as Hinchcliffe Homes, for the amount of $638,880, including GST, and that was carried. The potential disposal of land, 145 Britannia Street. On the motion of the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith, it was resolved that Council agreed to sell the property known as 145 Britannia Street to Mora by a public auction, and that local real estate agent NF Brennan and Co be appointed to do so, and that motion was carried. Tender evaluation, the Mora Recreation Centre entrance kiosk upgrade. The motion of Councillor Oliver and the Deputy Mayor, it was resolved that Council formally accept tender from MJ and JA Reardon for the amount of $206,090 plus GST, and that motion was carried. Tender for upgrade of works at Nixon Park amenities. On the motion of Councillor Smith and Councillor McLaren, it was resolved that Council 1 appoint DJR Building Timor as a contractor for the Nixon Park amenities building upgrade project. 2, enter into negotiations with the preferred contractor to reduce the scope of the works to bring the project within budget, and 3, advise unsuccessful tender of the outcome. And that motion was carried. Tender for the Temora floodplain risk management study and plan on the motion of Councillor Winking and Councillor Oliver. It was resolved that Council appoint Lyle and Associates as the preferred tenderer for the Temora floodplain risk management study and plan, and that motion was carried. Notice of motion read village signs on the motion of Councillor McLaren and Councillor Smith. It was resolved that Council proceed with the village signs project as per the quote provided dated the 10th of June 2020, and that motion was carried. And those are the resolutions that have been moved into open, so I now formally require a motion to have those motions adopted. Thank you. Councillor Smith, the Deputy Mayor, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. The Works Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
We have this Cannon Street street sweeper, which cleans our main street footpath once a week. It's in probably not good condition, and it's we're finding it's breaking down every now and then. There is one company which is traveling through Temora and happy to provide some demonstration of a new unit, which is scheduled at 1st of July, 7 a.m. in the main street. If you're interested, just let us know, and we can advise you exact time and what's happening on the day. It's not in a budget for replacement or any. There are no current funds available, or there is no planning to replace it. This is just supplier going through and could provide some demonstration if you are interested.
Thank you very, very much. Councillors, there's no further business before us. I do thank you so much for your attendance, and I